What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. Today's video, as you can see in the title, is all about New Zealand Rugby and their apparent case of maybe going bankrupt. Now this leads up to certain things that are apparently going on, and obviously one of the biggest headaches I could face is if actually South Africa leave Sanzaar. Now there's been a lot of talk that that's actually not going to happen. And for the sake of this, I hope it actually doesn't happen as well. Because New Zealand, whether you love them or hate them, held such a high hope in rugby and are one of the greatest, if not the greatest rugby nations in the world. They've developed brilliant players like the Richie McCaws, the Dan Carters, the Sonny Bill Williams, the Kieran Reid. I mean, crikey Moses. The list of talent that comes out of New Zealand Rugby, and let's not forget the late great Jonah Lomu as well, is amazing. There's a lot of talent there, and the reason why the talent is so good is because of how they bring up these youngsters from schoolboy level to club level to provincial level to All Black level. It is just amazing. There's rules and regulations in place to keep these guys in line. They are not allowed to play for their country if they go overseas, and this allows for in-house creation of born and bred New Zealand players and not allowing these players to go quickly to focus on the money. Now this leads into another headache that's facing New Zealand Rugby, and we're going to just unwrap a few of them in this video. Now obviously if you're from New Zealand, please comment down below and share your thoughts on this. This is from the New Zealand Herald. So obviously I think a few scribes are popular and unpopular, so it could be an interesting one to debate or to hear a local fellow countrymen's thoughts on this topic. Now a few of the talks is obviously scrapping the idea of players playing overseas and not being allowed to play with New Zealand. The reason why they say that is to put the stress load of being able to play and afford high quality players like the Beauden Barretts and in the old days the Dan Carters. Obviously, it all goes to the expense of these players. Because they're so good, they expect a certain amount of money in their pockets due to the level and the quality and what they bring to the table on the field. Now, we know what Beauden Barrett, I mean, he's just pure quality, and all the other guys like Sonny Bill Williams and Kieran Reid, who's led the All Black team. These guys are obviously seniors and legends in, and I know a lot have retired and gone overseas now. But these guys have built and are seniors and will expect a certain amount. And what this particular scribe is saying is that if these guys go overseas, then this load of a high salary that's knocking provincial level then goes into the overseas markets where they pay for these guys and then can afford them to play, obviously, just international. Now, it's a valid point he makes there, because it does take the load off. Look at South Africa, for example, and I'm again 50-50 on this, because I love what New Zealand's done, of how they've built players from young and kept them in New Zealand, and then when they're ready to retire, they go finish their career off overseas. It just brings the quality within provincial level rugby, and that's why the Super Rugby is constantly dominated by New Zealand, because it's pure bred players that are passionate and want to go. We look at South Africa. I mean, a lot of our stars are playing overseas. Why? Money is better, yes, and all the other jazz and logistics that go with it. So that's a thought and the talk of bringing that into New Zealand, and obviously growing that. And then also, a problem is we have, and this goes for South Africa too, that knocks us, is the stadiums are empty in Super Rugby tournament. Is this tournament dying out? We need a change, plain and simple. I mean, we look at the tournament, it's great, I love it, you guys love it, but it needs to change. It needs to go back to Super 12 or Super 14. It needs to be reduced. It is too long. The conference system is bull, and we need to go back to a good old log style tournament where we can fight to see who's the best. And I think that will bring back that level of intensity that old school fans, newer fans are missing. Because if I talk to certain people, they go, let's go back to Super 12 days. Yes, certain teams get kicked out, and it's unfortunate, but mix them together, build them up, and start something new, because the tournament is dying, and we need to change things up. There are hardly any full stadiums being played at that. If you watch overseas, English Premiership, Pro 14, Top 12, 14, whatever it's called, all of them are well supported, well documented. Whereas Super Rugby, you look at the Hurricanes play, that Wellington Stadium has more yellow seats than fans, it's sad, man. Same goes for the Sharks. I find they're one of the worst in South Africa with support, which is sad. And that's obviously knocking the budget, because full of seats pay bills of the stadium, of the players. And it's holding back. And then you get situations where you got international players pulling rank, going on sabbaticals, like Gareth, for example, and other players around who get to call the shots. And now people are like, I'll go in April when Barrett returns for the Blues to actually watch him play. If we think of it, when we see a C or B graded team, no one really wants to go watch them. They want to watch the big boys. They want to watch the A-listers. And if they're not there, they're going to go away. But that brings me to my worry, is if you allow this overseas talk, all these guys are going to go play in Europe, and then they're gone. And the same problem. Then another point to be made is allowing investors to invest in New Zealand Rugby. Take ownership of a club. Take ownership of a Super Rugby franchise. Bring the money in to keep these guys here and to keep them healthy. You look at the clubs overseas. They are owned by a private owner. You look at Premier League in England, owned by a private owner, and certain teams, other teams around the world. That's why these tournaments are developing in Japan, in America, in France, and all of that, is because these guys are throwing money at. Where better to invest money than in New Zealand? The heart, the soul, everything is right there in New Zealand. And if you can put more money into the brand and into the game, your guys like the Bowdens and all these blokes, the Aaron Crudens, who's now returned back, Dan Carter's, etc., they're not going to want to leave. They will stay and enjoy rugby, get a decent salary, and stay focused on what is important, and that's playing for your country. So many ways to look at it, but I think the guy makes certain good points. Invest in the brands in New Zealand Rugby, and buy a team or two and bring money in, bring players in, and allow the brand to grow and to be able to afford. That allows more seats in. That will encourage more fans to go, hey, I get to watch my homeboy. I get to watch this. I get to see trades here and there. You'll see maybe Bodie play for the Blues, then the Hurricanes, then the Crusaders. Mix it up a bit. Excite stuff if that's the problem. And that brings in money to New Zealand, which will then not allow them to get bankrupt and all that stuff. But for me, a big highlight is allowing players, and this goes for any nation, and I'm not just picking New Zealand, allowing your guys to go on sabbaticals. Yes, they've had a World Cup. Yes, they've done all this. But hey, they've played rugby all year long. I know family is important, but you signed on to play for this club. You're new, you're fresh, you got to show up. I mean, we're allowed a holiday there and there. They got that in December. Now he's on a little break until April. I mean, for me, Bowden's one of the best players in the world, but I don't like the way they call the shots like that. I just don't think it's right. Maybe I got the wrong end of the stick, hence why I encourage all New Zealand followers to talk about this and to enlighten me and enlighten other people, because it's a worry that New Zealand Rugby could go into bankruptcy, because it's the last thing I want to see as a fan and a person who respects New Zealand as a country, as a sporting nation. I want to see them continue the greatness. I love the rivalry that we share with you guys, and I want that to continue to go from strength to strength. But going back to the Sanzaar thing, the one reason why they blame South Africa, or not blame, why South Africa moving will take a big knock to them, is because we obviously pay our own ways in for the transport, etc., etc. You take away South Africa, the Bulls increase, and more pressures on teams like New Zealand and Australia. Australia also not in the greatest place at the moment. Puts too big pressure on them and Argentina, and shit hits the fan, and you have a failed tournament. Those are just my thoughts on it. I hope New Zealand recover from it. One thing I'd say invest more money into New Zealand rugby to grow it and bring more seats to the table. But hey, that's just what the South Africans thought. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you soon for another one. Stay safe and never give up. Cheers.